Alright guys, sorry for the weird lighting in this video. Have to sit kind of weird in this chair here so I can get some light on my face, but not too much. It is windy outside, so we are reporting to you from inside my vehicle here outside of the establishment, so-called Outlaws. Feeling pretty good. We got our video done last night pretty early, got it up this morning, got some good sleep. These last couple sessions we've done, last week in particular, I got a little bit wild with the gambling. We were playing like mad lads, to be honest. I don't know what happened. I can't explain it to you guys. I'm sure I have excuses in the last video to try and justify my shitty poker play, but we're not gonna do that this week. We're gonna play some solid poker. We're gonna go back to our roots. We had a couple good sessions there in the middle before we got a little bit gambly again today, or last week. So just gonna try to not get eaten up by the fun that is the crazy Thursday games that we play. If you guys want to come partake in the madness, feel free. It is a good time every time, except when you lose a lot. But then it's fun for other people, so you might be on the receiving end of that. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm running a bit late here, so let me go get set up and ready to play some poker. I'll report to you guys afterwards. All right, see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, starting off the vlog with our typical $300 buy-in. We try to get into the mix with a $20 open, but these absolute degens want to play for significantly more money. We say a three-way all-in, and our hand is simply not good enough to get involved for this amount of money, so we let it go and decide to watch from the sidelines. It's a three-way all-in for $300 a pop, more or less. Jensen exposes his pocket queens versus two mystery hands. They run the full board out, and it is in fact good. Shortly after that, we see another all-in situation with your favorite villain, Mr. Brian. Jensen opened, Brian put in all the money, thought about it for a while, but decided to stack off with pocket eights. And this time, my man Brian has the goods. He's got los jiggities. Jensen needs some help here, and help does not come. Pocket jacks are good on this ace high board. Still not much hand analysis because it's just a shove fest at this point. We look down at pocket threes in the big blind. There's a straddle to $20. And that's when we see an all-in for a little bit over 300 bucks. At this point, I'm debating making the call here and going all in ourselves. But then when we see Shelby go all in for about $800 or $900, I don't think our pocket threes here are going to be good, literally ever. It seems like Shelby's trying to protect his hand from the two distinguished gentlemen to his left. Connor and Shelby go to this board heads up. Shelby has pocket queens and flops a set. Connor throws his hand in the muck before the river is even dealt. And if you guys haven't noticed, the knit game is in effect, which is another contributing factor to this crazy action you are witnessing. The punishment for losing the stand-up game when you're playing with us on Thursdays is throwing $100 in the middle in the form of a splash pot. Hence why everybody is going sicko mode at the start of this game, because it is literally a third of your stack that you are going to pay as a tax. Anyhow, we see another all-in situation. Mikey put in $100 pre-flop. Brian and Gary both called. The action checks all the way down to the river. Brian ended up flopping a pair with 5-6 offsuit, but Mikey ended up getting him on the river with a pair of nines with jack 9 suited. And after about 30 minutes, we finally pick up a hand that is worthy of an all-in ourselves. We look down at pocket jacks and decide to call the $15 button straddle. And I know what some of you may be thinking. Why did we not raise? Especially with a hand as strong as jacks. Well, you guys see what everybody is currently going all in with, and since we're in pretty early position, I'm hoping that somebody is going to either raise or shove themselves, and we are going to snap it off. Luckily, we end up seeing a raise to $60. Shelby folds, Brian calls, Gary calls the 60. I decide to go all in for $499. If anybody had pocket queens or better, I'm sure they would have re-raised themselves, so I think our jacks are going to be good here a lot of the time. We lose 2 customers, but Gary does put in the call. 1133 in the middle as we go to this run out, which comes queen, deuce, jack, ace, 8. Gary flips over ace 6 offsuit for top pair, but it is no good against our set of jacks. For this next hand, we are on the big blind with $3 already in the middle. There's a $15 straddle, and we look down at ace 4 suited, and I'm getting malicious intentions. As you guys may have noticed, there is $100 sitting in the middle that is up for grabs here. Somebody just had to pay their knit tax, and while the suited ace is pretty good, I don't think we quite have the stones wants to make a large 3-bet here with ace 4 suited, because I'm going to have a hard time playing this post flop when we are out of position, especially when the button is a player like Gary, who plays a very wide range and is willing to just get stacks in. So while I think 3-betting is probably better than just flatting here, I do end up taking the passive route and just putting in a call. We're going 4 ways to this flop with $60 in the middle plus the 100 from the splash. The board runs out 7 ace 10 with 2 hearts. Action checks to me, I check it through. Shelby bets $30, and when it gets back to me, we can't quite fold for this price with top pair. The ace of spades on the turn makes it a lot less likely that Shelby has an ace, but he continues firing for $105. It's about a pot size bet, but considering there's an extra $100 in there from the splash pot, realistically we're getting 3-1 on our money here. We're going to put in $100 and the pot's going to be $400. So our hand only has to be good here about 25% of the time. Considering it was a limp pot, I do think it's possible for Shelby to have an ace here, but I expect him to have a suited ace anywhere between ace deuce up to maybe ace 9. I think ace 10 or better he would have re-raised pre-flop, considering there was a splash pot. Some of those aces were behind, some of them were ahead, but still have outs to chop if he does have us out kicked. And it's also very possible that he's doing this with 2 hearts or a hand like 8-9 suited. So for those reasons, I think the odds are just too good for us not to call with a hand as strong as trips. So I go ahead and put in the call for 105. We go to this river, which brings us the 5 of clubs. I check it in the dark over to my man Shelby, and he flips over ace 4 suited. I guess it's better than seeing him with an ace and having us out kicked. We're gonna go ahead and chop this one up. We take our money back, and then we made an additional $70 a piece from the splash pot and the people that called pre-flop. And now back to your regular scheduled program. We see a big bet from Mr. Brian and then an all-in from Gary. Wouldn't be Outlaws unless we had crazy action, ladies and gentlemen. Pot's a little bit over $1,400. They decide to run 2 boards. First board comes out 10 high with 2 9s, no flush or straight available. Second board comes ace high, but there are 4 to a straight, so any deuce or any 7 makes a straight. Gary proudly tables 10-7 offsuit for top pair on the top board and ace straight on the bottom board. And I was mistaken when I said the pot was about $1,400. Gary had a total of $1,900 and Brian had an entire stack of black chips behind, so he has him covered. This pot was actually $3,800 and Gary took it down with 10-7 offsuit. Nice pot, you absolute menace. For this next hand, we are in a pretty interesting spot. There's a $25 button straddle by Gary. Brian put in a call. Everybody else folded and the action is now back on me, and we are holding pocket aces. Yikes, man. This is actually worst case scenario. We have an absolute monster against 2 players that do not fold once they put money in the middle pre-flop. Either way, I'm going to try to get one of them to fold, so I decide to bump up the price of poker to $150. Brian puts in the call and Gary puts in the call. Welcome to our 1-3-25-150 game, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. 450 in the middle and the board runs out 3-5-4 with 2 spades. I contemplate how much we are going to bet here on this next street. I definitely have to continue betting, especially with the board this wet. There's 2 spades and a potential straight already out there, along with multiple straight draws. And you best believe one of these guys might be in here with 6-7 suited. Heck, maybe even offsuit. Anyhow, my initial thought was to bet anywhere between 75 to 125% of the pot here, obviously for protection. But then I wasn't sure what I would do if either one of our opponents called and then the turn got worse. But as I was grabbing my chips, I had the genius idea of doing the exact opposite and betting really small, hoping that one of our opponents would raise and then we would come over the top and just get stacks in. And we did see a raise from Brian, but unfortunately it was for our entire stack. Gary got out of the way and now I am in the blender.
I can't fold this hand. I can't. You okay going twice?
Sure. All right, running it twice, guys. Got one right here.
Oh, 7 Dewey!
And that's twice. Just go straight on the bottom and then the flush on top.
Well, that was rather unfortunate. Got the money in good and even ran it twice, but unfortunately Brian hit on both boards. He was able to take it with a flush and a straight, but honestly not upset about the situation. I had put him on a flush draw. He had a little bit more than that with the combo draw, but our read was right and we got the money in good. After that, we added on for $800, won a couple small hands. So we were up a couple $100 at this point. There's a $6 under the gun straddle. Everybody calls it. When the action gets back to me, I announce raise and then throw $12 out there as an absolute joke. Nobody's going to fold for an additional $6. We're just building up the pot here with King 10 offsuit. Flop comes ace king 6 rainbow. The action checks over to Shelby. He decides to bet $40. Jensen calls in the cutoff to my right, and I decide to get sticky here with second pair. Everyone else folds, and we're going to this turn three ways. 197 in the middle, and we see the 6 of spades. Shelby continues firing here, but he sizes up a little bit. He bets $200. I'm not quite buying what he's selling just yet. If Shelby had an ace, I think he would have raised pre-flop. And if he has a king, now that the board has paired, we both would have kings and sixes with an ace kicker. So we put in the call, waiting to see what he's going to do on the river. 597 in the middle, and the final card is the jack of spades. Shelby checks it over to us, and there's no point for us to bet here. I go ahead and check it back, and he does in fact have an ace. Completely wrong read on my part, unfortunately, but that's going to happen sometimes. And now we are in a slightly bigger deficit. For this next hand, we look down at king jack offsuit in early position. I decide to bump up the price of poker to $10. The Nick game is in effect, and we've been seeing a lot of raises, so I don't want to go bigger to 25 or 30 and then have to call a $90 to $100 bet. And as expected, we see a raise to $60. Brian calls, Gary calls, the action gets back to me, and with the Nick game in effect, I think king jack is good enough to $60 pre-flop. 4 of us going to this board, which comes out 8-3 king rainbow. $250 in the pot, and I decide to continue here for $150. We lose 2 customers, but Gary comes along for the ride, so we go heads up to this turn with $550 in the middle, and it comes the 3 of hearts. Gary checks it over to us, and believe it or not, I actually hate this card because I know dang well that Gary is very capable of calling with bottom pair, and since there's no flush or straight draws on the board, and given the fact that we are holding a king, it is a lot more likely that Gary has an 8 or a 3 here. At this point, I think I'm going to try to control the pot a little bit and just go ahead and check this back with the intentions of calling any reasonable size bet on the river.
Oh man, Gary, do you have a 3?
It's in my range.
It is in your range. I have to pay you off this time, buddy.
Ace 3.
Yeah.
Rather unfortunate. Gary had it that time. A bit of a tough spot to fold there with top pair and a very good kicker, but overall very pleased with the way we played this hand. Moving on to the next one. We go card dead for a little bit, but eventually look down at ace queen offsuit. Our stack is pretty short and we still have our nit button, so I decide to go all in for a little over $300 here. It folds over to Gary, and I'm sure you know what happens.
2 times?
Yeah, keep going. I guess it's gotta be me.
You're live.
I'm live, definitely.
Victoria's Secret, all right?
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's me. That's me. Yeah, 4. Oh my god. 1 left. 4. And a jack. Jack 4.
This guy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got Garried. The old jack 4 off does it again. Can't be mad though, we got the money in good. And speaking of money, we are out of chips now, so it was time to add on for another $800. As per usual, we asked for the lucky ones in the back, so the run good is imminent. For this next hand, we look down at 10-3 offsuit, but there's $100 in the middle, and so far the price of poker is $10. So $10 to make 120 or so sounds good to me. And to make things even better, nobody raised pre-flop, so we go to this board 5 ways. It comes jack deuce 3 with 2 hearts. Action checks to me. We have a pair. I decide to bet for $50 here. Only Shelby puts in the call, so we go to this turn here with 250 in the middle, and it comes the 8 of diamonds. We're gonna size up here and hope to take this down. I bet $115 and Shelby lets go of his hand. We make the $90 from the players that were involved, plus the extra $100 from the splash pot. I can justify that $10 call pre-flop for a splash pot, but I cannot justify a $30 pre-flop call with Jack 4 offsuit. We got smashed by this hand earlier, so I wanted to wreck somebody else's roll with it. And when we get a 3, 6, 7 with 2 diamond flop, there's not really much we got going on here with our Jack high, but the action somehow gets checked all the way around and we end up turning a straight. I checked this hoping that somebody takes a stab at it, and my man Tyler does not disappoint. Gary also puts in the call. I double checked to make sure we still have a straight and decided to raise this to 175. I picked this sizing going for value, hoping that both opponents would put in the call, which they do in fact do. The river is now the 5 of diamonds, which is a wonderful card for us. The club draw bricked out, and as played, I didn't think anybody had a set at the time. So the 5 pairing here really did not change any decision I had to make. So I ended up going all in here for everything I had left. And once my chips were in the middle and our opponent was thinking about it, I realized that the front door flush got there. To make matters even worse, under the gun ends up putting in the call, flips over king, queen of diamonds, which is in fact good.
Ooh, all right, guys. Not doing great. I felt like I was playing fine all the way up until even that aces hand. I don't know. I think the range I put our opponent on versus hands we were ahead of versus hand we were behind on. Felt like there was a lot of draws available on that board. Once in a while, he's going to show me 2 pair, maybe a flop straight, potentially a set, but I don't know. I just felt like he was on pair plus draw of some sort. He was either on the flush draw with 2 overs or hit the board with an open ender or something like that, so we called with our aces versus Brian in that hand. And then after that, I don't know what happened. I wasn't necessarily tilted. I rebought, was playing normal, but then just started overcalling. I noticed that I was overcalling a lot of hands and kept telling myself to stop calling. And then when the action got to me, I'd sit there, think, and be like, we should just fold here. And then just grab chips and throw them in the middle. So I think I am tilted. I'm not. Sorry, the lighting's kind of bad out here. Oh, my forehead is sweaty. Otherwise, I would. Can we do anything? There we go. It's a little better. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm not sure what the hell's going on with me. I feel like I'm playing a little weird right now. I don't feel like I'm pushing the action too much. Maybe I am. We'll find out when we look over the footage. I feel like I'm just overcalling. My all-in with the ace-queen, felt like I was ahead, got it in good. I'm okay there. Lost 2 boards. Rather unfortunate. We spiked an ace too, so it's like, opponent hit trips, and then he hits one of his pairs on the second board. That last hand, I sincerely did not realize that last card was a diamond. I was just like, no club, no club, no club for some reason. And then the last card paired the board, but I didn't think they had a set because we would have heard from a set. So I pushed on the 5, assuming my straight was still good. And then after I pushed and our opponent started grabbing chips to call, I realized the flush got there, the front door flush, not the back door flush. So I don't know. I don't know what is going on. Playing a little weird right now. It's so early in the night, but I don't want to really rebuy because I just don't feel like I'm playing well right now. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Might go home. We'll see. I'm going to cool off and kick it out here for 15-20 minutes and see if I want to keep playing after the fact. If I play, hopefully we run it up. If I don't, see you guys next week.
After a quick break, I felt like I was doing okay mentally, so I decided to stick around and continue playing. Let's see if we can spin this up. Shortly after buying back in, we see a pretty substantial hand. A couple of us limped the $10 straddle. We saw a raise to $40 with 2 callers, and then Brian put in a stack of 22 black chips. The action gets over to Gary and he decides to go all in. Everyone else gets out of the way, but obviously Brian is not going to fold when he already has $2,200 in there. Brian flips over pocket kings and Gary shows an 8 of diamonds. They go to this run out and the board comes out 4, 5, 7 with 2 diamonds. Gary shows the second card and it is a 5 of diamonds, so he flops a straight on the 4, 6, 7 board and then rivers a flush. The second board board comes out Jack, 4, 6, Queen, and then 9. So fortunately for Brian, that second board is clean for his kings, and they end up chopping what was in the middle. This next one, we look down at Pocket Rockets yet again. Would not be an Outlaws vlog unless we got aces, right? There's a $10 straddle on, and I decide to bump up the price of poker to $60. Action folds over to Gary, who puts in the call. Board comes out for Queen 10 with 2 spades. Pretty good board for us. 2 draws available, but outside of that, nothing scary. Only really losing to sets here. Maybe Queen 10 from time to time. I bet $50 and Gary puts in the call. 245 in the middle as we go to this turn, which comes an 8 of spades, and now Gary takes the betting lead. I double check to see if we have the ace of spades, which unfortunately we do not. And while Gary did donk bet into us, 1, this bet sizing is far too small for us to fold aces here, and 2, Gary could have literally anything. He may just be betting with an 8 here, so we can't give him credit for the flush yet. I put in the call. I'm gonna go off to this river, which comes a 10 of diamonds. Gary bets $50 here, and this is too little to fold. We put in the call. Gary shows pocket kings, and somehow our aces are good. We were starting to regain some of our profits, but then quickly donked it away by calling too wide. This is another example of us calling a bit too wide here. We looked down at king queen suited in the small blind, called the $15 straddle, saw a button raise to $45, and decided to call that as well. 180 in the middle, and the board runs out 10, 6, 4 with 2 spades. I decide to check here since we're out of position. We see a bet for $60. All we have is king high here, but I decide to float with the intentions of firing if we hit a pair or if we see another spade hit the board, and we get just that. We get a king of spades. Now, I don't think we need to put very much in the middle to get this bluff through. I decide to bet about half pot for $200, expecting everyone to release their single pair holdings, and if anybody does have a flush, they're most likely going to jam. This is exactly what happens. The action folds over to Eric, who then goes all in, and I know he has a flush, but he offers to show us a card anyway. I pick the one on the left, but he says I should pick the one on the right. Ends up being the jack of spades. That's enough for me to know he's got a flush. I end up mucking my hand, and then he flips over the ace of spades. Not surprised that I didn't get that one through. Nice hand, Eric. This next hand, we look down at 4 deuce suited. There's a $15 raise and a call from the button. The action has slowed down significantly, and we haven't seen as many raises, so I did decide to just flat the 15 here, hoping everybody behind me would just call. That's exactly what happens. So we go multi-way to this flop with $60 in the middle, and the board runs out for ace 5 with 1 heart. And unfortunately, my camera died during this clip, so I don't have the whole footage, so I'm just going to walk you through what the action went like. So starting with this flop, I ended up betting $25. I got called by 2 players, and everybody else got out of the way with our pair plus gutter ball and a flush draw, backdoor flush draw, that is. We go 3 ways to a turn, which gives us the 3 of hearts. We now complete our straight and have a straight flush redraw. Given the strength of our hand, I'm trying to get all the money in by the river. So I decide to go for about a pot size bet of $150. I get called by 1 player, and the other villain gets out of the way. The pot is now about $450. And I have less than 400 left in my stack. The river brings us the 10 of hearts. I end up getting all the money in, the opponent calls, and he ended up rivering a larger flush on us, which is an absolute tragedy. Why he floated us on the flop on an ace high board with 9 high, I don't know, but here we are. And like I mentioned, this was the last hand of the session. Got felted after this, and it was time to go home. Ended up leaving down $2,900, unfortunately, at the end of this madness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, reporting to you live from my living room with Ari, my dog. So wanted to give you guys some quick session afterthoughts. Didn't want to do it immediately after the session because your boy was distraught, to say the least. We were not doing well Thursday night on the way home or Friday morning. Beating myself up, definitely, a little bit. There was a little bit of run bad at the beginning of the session, but then I got into this weird mode, exactly what I said not to do, where we were just overcalling, playing way too many hands, playing way too wide. I didn't make any huge mistakes, I don't recall. I don't feel like I just did something entirely stupid. It was just a lot of consistent way too wide calls for anywhere between 30 to 100 bucks or so, which you could define as really stupid. But I don't feel like I just put my entire stack in doing something really dumb. excluding the one hand where I didn't see the flush, I was fairly certain our opponent didn't have a full house based off of how the action went. I was paying attention to one of the two flushes on the board, did not realize the front door flush got there, which was rather unfortunate, but what are we gonna do? I think I already went over that in the mid-session thoughts anyway, so I won't get too far into it. Anyhow, going back to kind of the mental game. So I was in that weird funk after you do something really dumb and have a bad session and also play bad, run bad and play bad. I was really beating myself up, starting to question whether or not we even knew what the hell we were doing in regards to poker, and just getting way too up in our head about it. And then something weird happened. I got off of work Friday and was debating whether or not I should go play that night. And as I was gassing up my car, I kind of had just a moment where I was like, it is what it is, you know? I lost, we're down that money, forget about it, move on. We gotta just play poker now. We're gonna go, we're gonna play, we're gonna act like that night never happened, we're gonna act like we were not down that money, still have money in our pocket to keep playing with our bankroll, fortunately. So I just went in there refreshed, not thinking about Thursday at all, just with the mentality of we're gonna play good poker. And it took me, 24 hours almost to get there, a little under 24 hours to get back to that mindset, but we did it, and we played well that Friday. I don't have any footage of it, unfortunately, because I forgot this camera that I'm currently recording on at home. So we ended up just playing a session with no camera, hanging out, having a good time. That's it in a nutshell. Hopefully this wasn't crazy long. I'll cut it when we're editing, obviously, but to the outro now.